everybody. Thank you for joining. We know it is the last day of Summit in the afternoon, so we are impressed that all of you made it up to this room and are here to chat with us today. I'm Sam Sawyer. I lead industry marketing at Databricks for our consumer industries, so retail, consumer goods, travel and hospitality. But I work with colleagues across all industries to really think about why Databricks matters for industry.
Yeah, and hi, I'm Ori. I'm in the same kind of wider team as Sam. I'm a product marketer, and I look after Lakeflow from the product marketing perspective. So excited to be here with you.
Yeah.
Take it away, Sam.
And hopefully you saw the keynote this morning where Michael and Bilal went through all of the investments that we're making in Lakeflow and in the data engineering world in general. Today, what we're going to talk about is why Lakeflow and data engineering matter to each industry and how that shows up. So really the why behind all of the investments that are being made. There's tons of training online, tons of technical documentation, but we're really here to talk about the why. Forward-looking statement, you've likely seen this a lot this week. This session is only for informational purposes. So what we want to talk about today is how data is the foundation of every analytics and AI use case. If you saw the keynote yesterday, Casey talked about a use case that around Agent Bricks, which is our AI agent product. She talked about a company asking for requests of their agent to recommend a new energy drink flavor. So if any of you saw that, the agent essentially looked through lots of data, determined, hey, we think you should create a new flavor of energy drink that is watermelon cucumber based, and here's the reasoning why we think you should create that. That technology is so innovative and so interesting to think about how that's going to be applied across companies, across industries, and how it's going to change the way that organizations innovate. But the reality is, all of the information that's coming out of that, all of the recommendations, all of the data that comes out of that agent relies on a foundation of data within your organization so that that agent can dive into every single aspect of that complicated question and come up with an answer. So really the foundation of all of this innovation we're talking about at this conference is your data and building that foundation. So your data really is your competitive edge against all of the other businesses in whichever industry you operate. So we've seen data show up as a competitive edge, particularly in certain use cases amongst our customers at Databricks. So we bucketed them here today. We're going to talk about how those use cases have shown up across industry, and then Ori's going to bring us through an example. First and foremost is improving customer experiences. This obviously requires data from customer sentiment analysis, customer data, patient data if you're in healthcare. This looks different across every single industry, but businesses are really focused on building better customer experiences to increase revenue, to increase loyalty, et cetera. Expanding your business, whether this involves acquiring new organizations, whether this involves moving into new markets, building new product lines. This requires data from market trend data, competitor analysis, your own transactional customer data as well. Optimizing operations. This has been a big focus for companies across every industry this year, whether those operations are digital or physical. Lowering costs, making your organization more efficient. This requires inventory data, productivity data, location data, weather data, et cetera. And then elevating your workforce, particularly when we're talking about agents, this is coming up a lot, focusing on how can you look for who you hire more strategically, how can you onboard more quickly, how can you make each of your employees more productive. And again, this shows up across every industry in very different ways, but using similar patterns. So wanted to share how this looks in four large industries, obviously: retail, healthcare, manufacturing, and media and entertainment. And I'll point out a few. So Personalized patient experience. Healthcare has really gone through a transformation over the last 5-10 years where patients are really expecting an extremely connected experience. Everyone has experienced scenarios with doctors that didn't know your information from one visit to the next. That it's no longer the norm and it's no longer acceptable. And AI is now recommending various outcomes for patients. It's recommending medication, really bringing patient experience to the next level. Retail media networks in retail and consumer goods requires a ton of data for closed loop attribution. If anyone in here is in retail and consumer goods, this is a way of retailers monetizing their data and their network so that their brands can advertise on their site or on other media. Digital supply chains have also really transformed and are no longer very manual work. They've been automated in a number of different ways. AI is making a big difference. IoT data is absolutely massive, and in order to do this type of transformation, you really need all of that data. And then in media and entertainment, and again, across all industries, fraud prevention, we're seeing a huge uptick. And again, from a data volume perspective, this is streaming data that is highly, highly up to date in real time so that you can get signals from any potential fraud activity. So beyond different industries, this data also needs to be available to every single department within your organization. So whether you are in HR working on employee retention, whether you are in cybersecurity looking for that fraud detection, every single team within the business needs access to the data that is relevant, up to date, reliable at the right time. This is a quote from the Rivian Chief Software Officer who said, "Our North Star is to democratize data. Everyone should be able to leverage data that drives decisions without being a data engineer or a data scientist." Democratizing data has become such a big term in our industry, and I'm sure in all of your industries, because making sure that the bottleneck of the data engineering team is removed so that teams can operate and innovate efficiently is becoming top of mind for every executive. In this chart, this is an economist impact report that talks about how reliant companies are on their data engineering team. So the red section of each chart is significant dependency on data engineering. And you can see I left those descriptions up so when you receive the PDF of this, you can see what significant dependency actually means. But as companies get larger, that dependency gets higher. At a medium-sized company, it's still a very significant portion of the organization is dependent on data engineering. And nearly 90% of very large organizations are significantly dependent on data engineering teams. So as a company gets bigger, this problem only gets worse. So now I'm going to pass it over to Ori, who's going to take us through an example of building a data foundation to enable use cases.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah. So again, Ori from product marketing, and I want to show how Lakeflow can kind of help solve that challenge in a company that I made up. So I'm introducing Furbit. What is Furbit? Furbit is a smart collar company for connected cats. So go on this journey with me, okay? It's just bear with me. Obviously, you can kind of place any kind of other organization in there, but let's dig into this company. And if anybody has any ideas after this session, come to me. Maybe we can get something going. What they have is basically a smart connected collar for your cat that tracks health and location. And if you think about their business model, it's mostly revenue from premium memberships. The collar is made at cost value, and that's how they make most of their money. So they can definitely use some more revenue streams, and they definitely need to grow that premium membership pool of customers. So like a lot of companies we've seen this summit, they innovate with data across the entire organization, kind of like how Sam just mentioned. So if you look at marketing, they're looking at innovative, personalized campaigns for their premium members. If you look at business development, they're looking for new ways to monetize their data sets. If we look at logistics, they're trying to improve and make their supply chains more efficient. And finally, customer services can always use a hand, maybe with agentic AI, to empower their representatives. So all these initiatives and new projects are all, data is foundational for all of them. So all these different personas from these different departments all rely on data. And that's why they all go to Jane, who's the data engineer. Poor Jane, she's just getting pinged from all over the place by people who just want more data pipelines so they can innovate in all these various ways. But Jane is busy. She has a lot on her plate. So who is Jane? She's a lead data engineer at the data platform team. Her skills, she's a Python whiz. She mostly uses PySpark. And she also knows SQL. And she's Databricks certified, actually, as a data engineer. Her goals in life is to keep the data flowing. She needs to govern all the data pipelines and all the data that comes in, restrict access. Only the right people should have access to the key data that Furbit collects. She also needs to monitor and mitigate and troubleshoot issues as they arise and optimize and scale these pipelines. Now, if you think about the main part of her job, it's these millions of events that are coming in from all these callers, from all these cats, and she needs to bring them into the Furbit data platform. It is, of course, built on top of Databricks. In that platform, what she does, she needs to ingest that data, clean it, aggregate it, filter it, and make it available for business use cases. Whether it's the mobile app that shows the owners how their cats are doing, maybe it's some BI, and maybe just storing it for future uses. But she also has a backlog. She's busy. She can't just, like, every time somebody pings her, build another pipeline. In May, the company had a bit of an issue, and she needs to backfill records from May. She also needs to add some redundancies in the production system so this doesn't happen again if she wants to keep her job. And again, the company is also expanding to Europe. So she needs to scale this streaming pipeline to be able to take on all the European cats that are going to be onboarded. And finally, as part of what she does, she has a quarterly audit. She just needs to see that everything's in place. Nobody has access to where they shouldn't have. And so she has a full plate. So luckily, she came to Data and AI Summit, and she learned about Lakeflow. So she can go to each one of those people that are pinging her and see and teach them about Lakeflow and what it can, how it can help them achieve their goals. So she starts with Sharon. Sharon is part of the marketing team. She's a senior marketing ops manager. She loves dashboards. She's pretty good with Excel. She knows CRM systems. She can read some SQL, but she's by no means a coder, and she doesn't want to learn how to code. Her goal in life is to work with campaign managers on new innovative campaigns for premium members. Again, bringing more value to premium members, trying to nudge these new customers to sign up for premium membership. And this is what they kind of came up with, so bear with me. If you're a premium member, we kind of want to offer you something pretty interesting. Based on the cat roaming pattern that you have, and our system, Furbit, knows if your cat is mostly staying put at home or if they're kind of roaming the backyards of your neighbors. And based on that, we can offer you different vouchers from local businesses. Local businesses, meaning in your zip code, for either grooming your cat if it's out and about and is kind of getting dirty and some kind of needs some, maybe a little pedicure, or if you need some fur removal because your cat's just staying put. So of course, this is a bit of a silly example, but it shows about how you can personalize an offer based on data that only you have about your customers. In this case, nobody knows how your cats are doing aside from Furbit. So what kind of data does she need for this? So she needs to collect some data about the members, what kind of membership type they have, what's their zip code, what's their email to send them those vouchers. She needs to kind of combine that in some way with pet data. So those are tags that are created as part of the main pipeline to say, is this a house pet or is this an outdoor cat? And finally, she has these partner offers. They're usually in spreadsheets, and she needs to kind of somehow combine all that data to get a target list for her campaign so she can send these offers out. This is where she needs Jane's help. She doesn't know how to do all that. She's not a coder. She knows what she needs. She's specialized in the business need, but not necessarily in the infrastructure she needs to put together. Well, luckily, Jane tells her about Lakeflow Designer. Lakeflow Designer is exactly what she needs. This pet data and member data is already in Unity Catalog, and the partner offers she can just drop into the designer like you saw maybe Michael do in the keynote today. She can kind of figure out all the filtering and joins and aggregations she can do. She doesn't need to code for that. It's just drag and drop. And she can read a little bit of SQL, so she can kind of validate that things kind of look right. Now, the cool thing is that no code is required, and this is production ready, so it can be scaled and productized. At any point, Jane, our data engineer, can come in and help if she needs to, or kind of scale this, and has full visibility into the pipeline once it's created. So that's great. Let's move on. So we got Nico from business development. He's more technical. He lives in the data warehouse. SQL is his native language. He does not care for Python, by the way, and he's uninterested in Spark. He doesn't want to know how to optimize Spark clusters. He's mostly about managing a warehouse and creating queries and all that good stuff. He works with the business development team to try to find ways to monetize their data sets. And there's something pretty interesting. They found that pharmaceuticals have a very large interest in the kind of data that Furbit is collecting. Knowing all the health monitoring data points, pharmaceuticals that create cat medicine can really use this data to come up with some new innovative pharmaceuticals. And that's a great new revenue stream that might extend the membership revenue stream that the company has. So what kind of data does he need? Basically, you got all these streams of caller data that come in, right? So he wants to create a streaming pipeline that kind of does a few transformations that are unique for this use. So they want to clean up some of the personalized data about the owners. They want to do some mappings that the pharmaceuticals need, some aggregations, maybe a few more transformations. Nico knows all this. He knows SQL. He knows how to do all that. What is a little harder is doing this for a streaming data set that just has millions of events coming all the time, that can scale and is optimized and is production ready. That's where he kind of needs Jane's help. Luckily, Lakeflow Declarative Pipelines is the right tool for him. Lakeflow Declarative Pipelines supports both Python and SQL, so he can work in his SQL environment. As Bilal showed today, it is a full-fledged IDE for data engineers. So he got everything he needs, and Lakeflow Declarative Pipelines takes care of all the complexities of running this with clusters, of doing all the streaming. You've got streaming tables, you've got materialized views. These are ways to just express the data flow without having to deal with the underlying infrastructure that is sitting there. So again, he can kind of self-serve himself and create these data sets that can be shared with Delta sharing externally. And Jane, again, can jump in at any point because it's a Lakeflow declarative pipeline. She has full visibility to it. It's all governed with Unity Catalog, and she's definitely kind of can sleep quietly while Nico is doing his thing. Let's move on to logistics and operations. So these callers are manufactured, and if you think about it, what goes into a caller? You put together, there's a strap, maybe there's a sensor, maybe there's a battery. All these things need to be sourced from different places, and there's a lot of options. So you've got supply chain analysts like Susie here and her team of specialists that are trying to find the most cost-effective way to build a caller. If you remember, the callers are built at cost value. All the money is coming from the membership, so they need to keep these costs low. Now Susie, she's an AI BI expert. She loves her dashboards. She knows how to build them. She even creates Genie spaces that for her team to interact with the data and ask questions about it. She's also an Excel super user. She can pivot any table you throw at her. What is she trying to do? So she's trying to build a dashboard, a landed cost comparison dashboard. I learned that while building this. I'm not a supply chain logistics person at all. And this really helps you find the right kind of things you need to find the best cost optimized sourcing and manufacturing supply chain. So what kind of data does she need? Well, we know she wants to create AI BI dashboards and AI BI Genie spaces, but the data that she needs includes things like cost per part by supplier and country that sits in a SQL server somewhere. Then there's like some S3 bucket that has tariff breakdowns by components. We know tariffs can be changing pretty frequently and might affect all these things. And finally, currency exchange rates are also a thing that she needs to kind of factor in. So she knows once she gets everything into Unity Catalog, she knows she's on her way. She can do everything she's used to do with AI BI, but that's where she needs a little bit of help because all these things are sitting in different places. Again, she's not a coder. She knows Excel, she knows AI BI, but like getting these things in is a little harder. So luckily, she's got Lakeflow Connect. Lakeflow Connect offers connectors that are just point and click. I know that in some companies you would never let somebody who's not a data engineer actually ingest data from the outside. So even if Jane has to do it for her, it's an easy path to ingest data from SQL Server, from a cloud storage connector. But also some data sets might actually be available directly in Unity Catalog if you bring them from the marketplace, like this currency exchange rate. You actually don't need a connector for that. You can just bring it in. These are common data sets that are just publicly available on the data marketplace. So once all these things are in Unity Catalog, Susie's on her way, and she can build all the dashboards and Genie spaces for her team to find the best way to cost optimize a supply chain. So again, no code connectors, built-in integration with Unity Catalog means she doesn't need to do anything special to bring in things to Unity Catalog. Just using these connectors with Lakeflow under the hood makes sure that everything is sitting in Unity Catalog. Finally, let's look at the customer service department. Brian is a data scientist there. His world is a Python world. He loves Mosaic AI agent framework. And his goal is to try and infuse agentic AI in different places to empower employees. So this is what he's kind of thinking after talking to some of the customer service representatives. So usually our representatives, they talk to customers and different topics come up and they need to look up all this information to come up with answers and to give the best kind of service. But if they had an agent just listening on the call and doing some searches with Mosaic AI vector search in a knowledge base, that agent can maybe give real-time suggestions while the conversation is happening. So the representative just has these kind of suggesting popping up. You can imagine somebody calling and saying, hey, the caller has not rebooted or the sensor has a malfunction. The AI agent searches the FAQ or documentation and sees, this is actually something that's pretty common with this recent update. Maybe you need to do another firmware update to your caller or something like that. So that's great, but to kind of hydrate that knowledge base, Brian is looking to create some data sets. So he's going to look at like call recordings from past calls, and there's hundreds of them, maybe even thousands. He's going to transcribe them into transcripts so he can kind of do some more analysis and extract questions, answers, and call scores from those transcripts. So he knows how to do all this. That's his world. He's a data scientist. Like he knows how to write a notebook that does speech to text, it does all these things. What is a little harder is how do you scale this? How do you run this now on 1,000 calls? How do you do it efficiently? How do you automate it? How do you make sure that you can run it like, I don't know, every night or every week? How do you monitor this thing to see it doesn't break? This is where he needs a data engineer and he comes to Jane with. But luckily, Lakeflow Jobs is right there for him. Lakeflow Jobs offers a UI that's pretty simple to understand, and data scientists are pretty technical, and he doesn't need to be a data engineer for it. So he can take this kind of pipeline that he has with his Python notebooks where he gets the call recording, he does some speech to text, extracts the Q&A sentiment, and builds that data sets for that knowledge base. And he can take advantage of a lot of the Lakeflow Jobs features. As you heard from Bilal today, there's a lot of features there. This is a highly trusted, I'm sure a lot of you are already using Lakeflow Jobs, but if you're using them for ETL, you should know they can actually orchestrate any kind of workload, including machine learning workloads like this. So you can schedule and trigger these things. Batch inference is actually a cool recent feature that has been infused throughout Databricks and includes jobs. This is a way to go and run some model on an entire table. So if you have, for example, a bunch of transcripts, you can run like in parallel like 1,000 speech-to-text instances on all rows in the table. So that's something he can use to really scale this effort to create that data set. And the same thing for the extraction of Q&A and sentiment and all that. In addition, it can easily monitor these workflows because it's Lakeflow jobs. So system table support is there. There's a lot of dashboards and visualizations to see how jobs are doing. And it's all serverless. So again, he doesn't need to deal with clusters that he has to optimize or configure. And Jane can, again, see everything. It's Lakeflow. It's all Unity catalog. And she can sleep quietly at night knowing that everything is monitored and she can jump in at any moment and help. So as we see here, this is an example of a company. It's a made-up company, but I think you can kind of see how it might be a good stand-in for a lot of different companies where you can improve customer experiences with personalized campaigns. You can expand your business with new ways to monetize your data sets. You can optimize operations with building more efficiency into things like supply chain and enable your workforce with things like agentic AI. So all these, this is true democratization of data engineering. If I go back to the Rivian executive quote that Sam kind of presented, letting every persona from every department with different skill levels get access to good, high-quality data and to data engineering. And at the same, so they're all working on Lakeflow. It's all governed by Unity Catalog under the hood. And Jane is like sitting there on the side, and she has full control of everything. Everybody's using the standard tooling. She can troubleshoot. She can help with production-grade pipelines. If needed, she can scale. And of course, she has full visibility to everything. So enough about fictitious companies. I'm going to bring it back to Sam to go over some real Databricks customers who actually see some of the real value and benefits that we see today.
Thank you, Ori. I'm a dog person, so I'm going to go to a different set of customers. So I'm going to share a couple of examples, as Ori said, of Databricks customers who are using Lakeflow and the Databricks platform to streamline their data engineering and build a strong data foundation. In each of these, there's a QR code in the top corner in case you're interested in learning more. There's a write-up. But first, I'll talk about iFood. iFood is a food delivery company in Brazil. They own around 80% of market share. And we're looking to expand into new opportunities. They operate at a massive scale, so about 65 million food orders per month. And they focus on local small businesses. So you can imagine food delivery from small businesses in Brazil is very difficult to orchestrate. The challenge was they wanted to innovate, but their teams were focusing on error handling all the time. Their data engineers always had a backlog of errors to deal with, so they weren't able to focus on innovation. When they moved to Databricks and Lakeflow, they were able to reduce not only their storage costs and processing, but they were also able to reduce their maintenance efforts because they were using declarative pipelines. They were able to use more automated error handling, and this enabled them to innovate more, code less, essentially transform their business. Next, I'll talk about Hinge Health. If you're not familiar with Hinge Health is a business that is focused on musculoskeletal pain. Their mission is to lower the number of surgeries that are required, lower the amount of opioids that are used for pain because they can solve it with physical therapy and other strategies. They were focused on scale. So it's a business that has a ton of signals coming in because they're getting every single IoT signal coming from their devices and their apps, the patient data, et cetera. And they were growing at a really, really rapid rate. So about 10x the volume of data that was coming in. They wanted to scale, they needed to scale at a rapid pace, but they couldn't scale their costs 10x. So what's incredible here is by using Databricks and Lakeflow, they actually reduced latency even though they scaled their data volumes and they cut their costs in half. Next example is Condé Nast. Condé Nast is a media company. If you're not familiar with it, they operate about 37 distinct brands. I'm certain you're familiar with some of those on the screen. The biggest focus for Condé Nast was about breaking down data silos across their organization. They really needed to enable a single customer view when you're operating all of these different brands to make sure that their customers are not getting repeat marketing efforts, repeat communications. So in order to do that, they leveraged Databricks to enable their data science and data warehouse teams to self-serve more, give teams the opportunity to collaborate more and break down those silos, and really enable a single view of their customer. All right, last, Volvo. Obviously, everyone in this room is familiar with Volvo. It's a company that operates at massive, massive scale globally. They have hundreds of thousands of spare parts across the globe that they need to have visibility into and manage so that they can send them to various locations to build cars, to maintain cars, et cetera. In order to efficiently do that inventory management and that parts inventory management, they needed really deep visibility into their supply chain. By moving to Databricks and using Lakeflow, they were able to get real-time data to their teams. They increased their efficiency by 40%, and they also reduced pipeline latency even at that massive scale. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really, really excited about the innovation that's happening with Lakeflow and the investments that Databricks is making. Please fill out your survey, and we have some time for questions.